Hi, I'm Marcel Deitrich with Guaranteed Rate, and this is Stuart Walker with the Christie Cannon Team. And I actually invited Stuart over to talk about a situation that he and a client were recently in that actually a lot of people are going to be able to identify with. Most people out there, especially when they've never been homeowners, sometimes they don't realize that they actually have the ability to be a homeowner.
Yeah.
Some people sometimes think that they're going to be in a position to where they'll be renting for possibly the rest of their lives, and that doesn't necessarily be the case. So Stuart, if you would, tell us a little bit about your client and tell us the story about how things happened with your client.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. So I met my client she came to me about 3 months ago, and at that time she was she wanted to rent a house in Cedar Hill, and really she had been having a challenge in finding the right type of property. And at the time, she decided to contact a real estate company in order to get a little bit more help in finding the right type of house. And in my first meeting with her, as we were starting to put together kind of a strategy of how we were going to go out and approach finding the right house, I started to learn a little bit more about her story and a little bit more about her financials.
Sure.
And at that time, I just wanted to pose the question to her.
Sure.
Have you ever thought about purchasing a home before? And for her, it just seemed like such a foreign idea.
Sure.
That I need to be wealthy in order to buy a house. I need to have 20% down in order to buy a house. It's not something for me.
Yeah.
She had a lot of myths going on in her head. And at that point, I put her in touch with you.
Sure.
And, she got pre-qualified really quickly, and she had impeccable credit. And fast forward about 2 months, yesterday she closed on her first house.
Awesome.
And it was a really great experience. And it just reminded me why I love being a real estate agent.
Absolutely.
And
yeah, and I'll tell you, what I really thought was interesting was kind of the approach that you took. Obviously in speaking to her, you made her feel 100% comfortable with the process. It wasn't anything to where you were pushing her in one direction or another direction, or pushing her toward higher priced houses or whatnot, but you actually took the time to find out exactly what it was that she was looking for, and you matched that up with specifically where she was going to be comfortable on payment. A lot of times when people are purchasing a home, they have no idea of what a house payment is going to be like in comparison to a rental.
That's great.
And so sometimes they end up working with a realtor sometimes that may be like, okay, well, you need to look at this house, and then they find out that the payment is much higher than they're able to actually afford or be comfortable with. And you kind of took a different approach. You actually made payment really one of the number one topics that you and I discussed, to where you're like, Marcel, she really wants her payment to be around this price range. So let's look at a couple different loan programs, show her some of the options, and then you kind of backed into it. And then you took the amount of a pre-approval, and then you kind of showed her some of the properties that specifically fit what she was looking for in terms of square footage, in terms of area, bedrooms. You took really all the specifics that she was looking for and made it match with her monthly payment. So I was really impressed by you not rushing through the process, but taking the time to ask the right questions and make her feel comfortable all the way through.
I'm glad that you mentioned the rental amount, because I think a lot of people, and we were talking about this earlier, a lot of people, if you're thinking about rent, let's say my rent is $1,500 a month. When you rent a house, you got to pay first month's rent.
Sure.
Your security deposit.
Absolutely.
If you have pets, there's a pet deposit.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes it's non-refundable. And then 30 days later, you owe the next
Absolutely.
the next month's rent.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, you're paying about $4,500.
Yeah.
You have a pet, $5,000 in
Sure.
30 days to rent a house.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, if you could apply that $5,000 I'm telling you, you can afford a house.
Absolutely.
It's not out of reach for people. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
And there really are. There's so many low down payment programs that are available now. From obviously there's VA loans for veterans, but you have FHA that requires 3.5% down. Both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac now have 3% down programs, USDA. So there's a lot of different options for buyers to really look at getting into a home with minimal money out of pocket. And as you said, by the time that you start adding up what it's going to cost to lease by putting down that deposit, if you're renting a property and it's $1,500 a month, that's a $1,500 dump right there as far as how much money you're having to put into an account just for that deposit. In addition to that, you're going to be in a position to where you're paying that first month's rent. That's an additional $1,500. So now you're at $3,000 plus 30 days later.
It just adds up.
Absolutely.
One thing that my client was talking about was, or that we were discussing, and we kind of called it your house bank.
Sure.
So in your monthly payment, when you're paying your principal and your interest, a portion of that is going back into building equity in your home.
Sure.
If I'm renting and I'm paying $1,500 a month in rent, it's going to pay off someone else's mortgage.
Somebody's
right?
building equity.
But if you own the home, there's a percentage of what you're paying that's going into building the equity also.
Absolutely.
And I know that you were mentioning before just the opportunity to build wealth, to build equity in buying a home.
Absolutely.
That there's really no other vehicle out there in order
to
do that.
There's really not, and it's one of the things that I'm oftentimes talking to people about. Even if you took, let's just say someone has $10,000. Right now, what you would probably consider an incredible rate of return is 10%.
Yeah, I'd take that.
So if you could put 10% in the stock market right now, you'd be like, hey, I'm putting $10,000 in, earning 10% out. Well, that's $1,000 a year that you're earning in interest. And I promise you, any financial advisor out there would tell you, hey, 10% is awesome.
Yeah, right.
But now, if you're looking at what homes have been appreciating for the last 2, 3, 4 years, you're talking about a clip anywhere between 7% and 12%. So let's just say that, just to use the average of 10% again, let's say someone purchased a home 2 years ago for $200,000 and it appreciated by 10% that first year. Well, that's $20,000 just in 1 year in equity that's been built. And then you fast forward another 12 months, and now you're talking about an additional $22,000. So you're talking about within a 24-month time frame, $24,000 that can be earned in equity. Right. And that's the wealth building effect. And that's why even if you take money and just deposit it and you can earn 10% interest, $10,000 a year later, you'll have $11,000. But if you end up purchasing a home, you can so significantly increase that. And that's really the number one driver of wealth, not just in the United States, but in the world, is real estate, because it allows people to leverage their money and actually have gains on the asset amount. That asset is the house, and basically when that asset appreciates, which homes do appreciate, you're realizing all of that appreciation in terms of equity. So it's definitely something that oftentimes people miss because they're not taught about how that leverage works. And so it's definitely something, being a first-time home buyer, while it is scary, it's probably one of the biggest determining factors of how that life will end up playing out in terms of wealth and capital, through their lifetime.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And so, in thinking about my client's closing yesterday, and it was, I won't say it was emotional, but it was just a significant event.
Sure.
And I think back to when we first met. And, she approached me. She was looking to rent a house. She wanted to spend about $1,500. And now she's purchased a house. So I just, for other people out there, I know for myself, when I bought my first home 10 years ago, I thought I had to put 20% down. I put 20% down. I saved years for it. And for a lot of people, they're thinking, I'm going to buy a $300,000 house. That means I got to have $60,000.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you don't need all of that. And there are a lot of options out there for you. My client is a perfect example of that. She's a first-time home buyer, closed on the house yesterday. Really exciting for her. But I just think there's a lot of options out there for people to explore.
And it really is it is life-changing. I mean, literally, from her making that first phone call to you, not even considering purchasing a home, and just talking about, hey, I want to find another house to rent or another property to rent. And then all of a sudden, fast forwarding 2 months, and she's a homeowner.
That's
now in a
crazy.
position to where she is earning equity. I mean, the life change that it made for her family. There's really few vocations in the world where you do have the ability to really change the path that someone's life is on. Obviously, teachers, physicians, but really the time that you took as a realtor to really make sure that you listen to her, put her in the right position, and give her proper guidance. I mean, I promise you, you have absolutely changed the direction of her life. And I know that at the closing, she was definitely quite ecstatic about being able to close on the house. It's really an incredible event.
Well, I couldn't have done it without you too.
Well,
I really appreciate your help all throughout the whole process, and just looking for other people who also need help in the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Well, Marcel with Guaranteed Rate. Best number to reach me is 972-672-3246.
And Stuart Walker with the Christie Cannon Team. I'm at 972-310-2001, and looking forward to your call.
And if you are looking for a realtor that cares, this is your guy right here. You're not going to find anyone who cares more about their clients, so definitely give him a call if you're interested in buying a home.
Thanks, Marcel.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.